Hello, everybody. How are we? Welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel for your Fulham review. It did finish Watford 1, Fulham 4 at Craven Cottage in the third round of the FA Cup. First things first, that game should have never been played on a Thursday night. It had Saturday 3 p.m. written all over it. Having said that, we've got a clear weekend and we've got a bit of time to talk about it. Sam, we were both in that away end yesterday. Over 4,000 Watford fans making the trip. Incredible support, first off. I wanted to mention that. In terms of away ends and Watford away ends, that's one of the best I've been in terms of the support, in terms of the noise. Where does that rank for you yesterday in that away end?
Yeah, it's right up there, 100%. I think it sort of helps when you're going into a game with almost little expectation and almost the pressure's off within the crowd as well. But 100%, it was up there. And that moment when Vata scored, I know we lost 4-1, but that was, that's proper memories, and that's what football's all about. I had a great evening purely for that Rocco Vata goal and that bounce afterwards as well. I genuinely thought the stand was about to fall apart with all the Watford fans jumping around, and the noise was great. It was amazing. I tweeted this as well. I think one thing I really liked about the away end last night is I thought the fans made it clear how behind Tom Cleverley we are. I think collectively, obviously there are a few, one or two who aren't too happy at the moment after 4 defeats in a row, but particularly when the players walked out and Tom Cleverley walked out in front of the Watford fans, almost like people were celebrating when he came onto the pitch. And I thought that was really pleasing to see. Obviously not the result that we wanted. There were some positives to that performance. We were playing against a really good Fulham side who are competing for Europe in the Premier League. And yeah, I had a really enjoyable evening despite the result.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there about the Watford fans making it clear they're right behind Cleverley. Cleverley even mentioned it in his post-match about how he really appreciated the sport. I thought it was another level in the first half. Really good. And also, look, and I know for a fact because I turned to my right-hand side and obviously you've got the Cottage just above the tunnel, and I turned to my right and I can see Scott Duxbury and someone who looked like Gino Pozzo, or it was his double anyway. But I know Scott Duxbury for a fact was there yesterday. So look, they would have heard the songs, they would have heard the chants, they would have heard the support for this Watford team and the manager. And I guess, Sam, before we get into the game, it's probably a case of now, and I think Watford fans, from what I've read and spoke at the game yesterday, they're now just wanting him to be backed in the window because, as you mentioned, the form we're in at the minute is not great when you take a step back, because that is 4 defeats in a row. Cardiff at home, QPR away, Sheffield United at home, and then Fulham away. And now, granted, Fulham, I don't think any of us were really expecting a result. But it's pretty clear now going into the next two with 2 away games, Sam, where our away record hasn't been great, Cardiff away and Derby away. That almost felt, and maybe am I reading too much into that? Almost felt like you need to back this manager now.
Yeah, I think so, 100%. We know the issues within the squad, particularly following Daniel Batman's injury. I actually thought Bondi had a decent game last night, to be honest with you. Maybe could have done a bit better with the 4th goal, but that's probably being really harsh. I thought he had a good game last night. But the goalkeeper area, the midfield area, which we're going to have to talk about because that was the obvious weak link yesterday, the attacking areas as well. Yeah, he simply has to be backed. And actually, I don't know if we spoke about this on our video we did the other day talking about Daniel Jefferson's exit, but I thought Cleverley's comments in the week were really interesting, basically saying that I've told the board what I want. I've told the board the areas that I think we need improving, but he's ultimately too busy preparing for the amount of games that we have in January. He's not going to have time to almost look at every single transfer over the next month. And he's basically just saying to the board, help me out here. And I thought it was interesting because he wasn't deflecting the responsibility, because I think Cleverley, one thing he's been really good at is taking responsibility. But I think he was almost just saying, I need a bit of help here, while telling the fans as well that if this window doesn't go well, it's more down to the board than down to him.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it in our last video, and we talked a bit about the Jefferson exit, Porteous rumours, Batman's injury, etc. And Sam, you made the point about how really this January transfer window is going to define whether we really give the playoffs a good go or whether we just sort of fizzle out into a 13th or 14th finish, because Tom Cleverley is probably the best thing to happen to Watford in a long time, really. And we mentioned it a number of times in this video. And that was clear in the away and yesterday. Look, phenomenal support. We'll touch on the game because it did finish Fulham 4, Watford 1. You mentioned a couple of performers there, Sam. Let's go through the team actually first off. And I'll just shares a couple of statistics, and you can see the momentum bar. Charlie, who's not with us today, he's always with us with the momentum bar. So here it is on the left-hand side. Goals from Rodrigo Muniz, a lovely finish. Rocco Vata's worldie, which we'll get onto in a minute. Then Jimenez, Joachim Andersen, and Castagna meant it was 4-1 at Craven Cottage. But the momentum bar just on the left-hand side said all you need to know in terms of domination of the ball. Granted, Watford set up in the first half to be disciplined, to be tight and be compact. And I thought, to be fair, they did it pretty well for the majority of the first half. The second half, that penalty was just a sucker punch, wasn't it? Now, we'll get into the debate about whether it should have been a penalty, whether it was definitely a foul, but whether it was inside the box. But in the second half, Watford just didn't really get back into it, or didn't really lay a glove on Fulham, which they did in the first half through Rocco Vata. Sam, that momentum bar, does that tell the story of the game, or do you think actually when you actually watch the game yesterday, we were always, I mean, at one point it was 25% possession for Watford. They gave up the ball, so was that almost expected?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I was actually surprised by the momentum bar with how much momentum it's saying we actually had. I can't really think of. I can't. To be honest with you, outside of Vata's effort, and Ince had a similar one which went straight to the goalkeeper at the end of the first half. I mean, in the second half, Kiembe had a volley right at the end, but I can't really think of any chance, almost clear-cut opportunities that we created in the entire game. To be honest with you, and even the Vata one, you're not going to call that a clear-cut opportunity. So, so there's 5 shots. Honestly, I can't remember where those other 2 would have come from. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But I think also what it shows is the gulf between the 2 divisions at the moment as well. Fulham did rotate as well, but then again, their rotated team, they're bringing in the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe as well. So, and Sessegnon on the side as well. So Muniz as well up front, who's still having a decent season for them, rotating with Raul Jimenez. So yeah, it did sort of surprise me, but I was impressed in that first half with how disciplined Watford actually were on the whole, to be fair.
Yeah, on Watford's attacking intent. Look, cleverly admitted beforehand, he had to rotate it with the fixture schedule that we had, and I think, to be fair, what he did well is he put out a team there where players who were on the fringes got game time, but also tweaked it to a point where there was still first teamers on the pitch and players that are in and around the squad, because we don't have a big squad. What I will say is, as you said, that Rocco Vata worldie was really, I mean, the only massive effort that I can remember. I think we went into Fulham's box once. I really don't remember.
It might have been just, I don't know if it comes up on the momentum bar, but I think it was just before actually Muniz scored to make it 1-0. And I think there was almost a half chance in there. I think it might have been Ince made his way into the Watford box. I don't know if he got his shot off, but I think Fulham literally went straight down the other end and scored. So that was short-lived.
For people who can't see on screen, basically I've got the 5 efforts that Watford had. And yeah, one of them was inside of the box. And then obviously Vata's one for about 25 yards out was just an absolute beauty. Sam, on Vata, by the way, I had this debate with someone at half time. I mean, it was worth going yesterday just for that moment alone. I mean, in terms of limbs, that is some of the best limbs I've ever experienced. I took my cousin yesterday and his knees in bits. I mean, there was a bloke a couple rows back who just basically flew himself over. I've caught Tom. And I'm thinking to myself, goodness me, that was going somewhere. But yeah, look, it's an absolute worldie. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful strike from Vata. Turned his man, got his head up, thought, you know what, let's have a shot. Cleverly mentioned that he does a lot of finishing practice in training. My question to you, though, Sam, what was the better limbs, Guardiola at Arsenal or Vata at Fulham?
Wow. Difficult, that one. I mean, you'd have to say Guardiola, I think, simply for going 2-0 up at the Emirates and you're 1 game away from Wembley. But last night was simply up there. I mean, we've had a difficult few years with Watford. The last 3, 4, 5 years have been really, really tough. But I've always said as well that, yes, the bigger picture might not be great, but football is very much a moments game as well. You can still enjoy moments despite the wider context. And in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, we've had that Rocco Vata last-minute winner against Portsmouth, and the Rocco Vata the Rocco Vata screamer against Fulham. So that he's responsible for 2 unbelievable scenes, which I think I know we lost 4-1 yesterday, but I think those 2 moments will go down arguably as 2 of the moments of the season so far in terms of pure emotion and celebration out of the away end. So credit to Rocco as well, because to be honest with you, I know we didn't see too much of him in those first 10, 11 games at the start of the season, but while he was impressive when he was coming on and in pre-season, I think I said it on here, one of my concerns with him was his ball striking, actually. I thought he had to do a lot of work on his finishing. He wasn't scoring many goals towards the start. He wasn't necessarily having that cutting edge to create those opportunities, but now it's completely different. And you can tell, Cleverly said he's worked on it in training, and he's clinical, isn't he? He missed the chance the other day, I think, against Sheffield United, but yeah, he's scoring opportunities, he's creating opportunities, and he's the next big thing, isn't he?
He is. I think it's almost set that Chatford will leave in the summer, even maybe possibly January. We don't know. It'd probably be unlikely, but definitely in the summer. And Vata's sort of the next in line to take over from his position week in, week out. I think the biggest thing for me with Vata is he's just got that bravery on the ball every time he gets it, that he wants to go and be direct, similar to Bar. And they've both got similar attributes like that. They get the ball and they back themselves to beat a man. They back themselves and they back their ability, which is so refreshing for a young player, particularly because you do get young players who kind of hide a little bit. And Vata certainly isn't one of them. He's come in, he wants to make an impact, he wants to make an impression. And take away the goal yesterday, just his overall time as a Watford player so far, is a player that wants to put his authority and his stamp on the team, and he wants to play first team football, which he wasn't able to do as much as he would have liked at Celtic. It is incredible that we managed to get him for a couple of $100,000. I mean, his value is probably just gone up 10 times within 6 months, and it's only going to go up. I think the fact that he is only 19. I mean, pretty frightening.
I mean, something else that I really, really like is that something that you almost see as you go up the leagues, and something you see from the really high quality wide players, is they can play both outside and inside as well. And I think Vata is someone he started to take up positions. He can pick the ball up from on the touchline on the far side, or he can come inside and receive the ball from deep and drive it forward as well, like we saw yesterday with his goal. And I think having that versatile attribute makes it difficult for defenders almost to pin him down and stop him, but it also allows Watford to create a lot more opportunities too.
Yeah, totally a rocket from Rocco Vata. Just on the Watford lineup yesterday, Sam, it was a tweaked team from Tom Cleverly. Obviously, the forced change was Jonathan Bond coming in for Backman, and then a back five of Andrews, Porteous, Ogbonna, Tikvich, and Larousi, with Duomo, Kiembe, and Ince, and then Dumbia and Vata kind of roaming in the forward areas. What did you make of that lineup from Clevs and sort of the way he approached this one? Because Vata was the more advanced out of the sort of midfielders and getting higher up the pitch. Dumbia felt a little bit isolated at times, but did you understand the changes he made to the team?
Yeah, I'm laughing here at the graphic because if you can see it, you can see the little assist boot next to Antonio Tikvich's figure. It's probably, if they get bonuses for assists, I think that's probably the easiest bit of money he'd have ever made in his life. I don't think there were many surprises with it. I was actually surprised to see Ogbonna in there. Obviously, a player who's still coming back from injury. I thought almost wrap him in cotton wool. The players who I say I didn't want to see playing was. I didn't want Matty Pollock to play because he's played so many minutes recently. I think he's got an illness at the moment. So, along with 3 or 4 other players, so wishing all of them the best. I didn't want Ogbonna to play, and I didn't want Imran Louza or Quadro Bar either to play. Just wrap them all in cotton wool and keep them fresh for the Cardiff game on Tuesday. And Bar came on towards the end, and so did Louza, I think. But it was nice to see some rotation in there. I actually thought Tikvich I know he gave away quite a soft penalty, but on the whole, I thought it was a huge improvement from what we'd seen in pre-season. Maybe it was him dyeing his hair back to its natural colour rather than that bleached, the bright hair that you couldn't miss him with. I thought he was impressive. Duomo, quite unfortunate for him to get injured, and hopefully it's not too serious. I thought Porteous and Ogbonna had really, really solid games. Dumbia, like you mentioned, was isolated, but I thought the effort was there from him, and almost the anticipation on when to press, when to try and get in behind. I thought that was there, and he showed some maturity with that. I know he's incredibly raw and he's got a lot to learn, and it'll be interesting to see him in games where, he'll be expected to do a lot more in terms of taking chances and finishing and whatnot. But I thought he had a good performance yesterday, and I mentioned earlier, but I thought Bondi and Guy had a decent game as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to take it back to Tikvich because, look, I had kind of mixed reviews in the away end. Some people are like, I don't like the look of him, but then some people saying, oh, he's, as you said, Sam, he was better than I thought. Look, I actually thought on the ball he looked good. You know, he played that. I know again the assist is a stretch because it's a worldie, but actually it was a good progressive pass from Tikvic to play it through the lines, which sometimes I get a bit frustrated about with our back line. Can we sort of penetrate through the lines a little bit better? I thought his weight of pass was pretty good on the ball. He looked fine. It was just actually in the one-on-one defending scenarios, he does just look a little bit awkward. And weirdly, Sam, I look at him and I'm like, I know it sounds mental, but I don't know if he's a defender. Like his actual, like I know it sounds crazy, and maybe I'm clutching here, but I watch him and I think you can tell that there's a guy who's played at Bayern. I know the B team, but played at Bayern, and you know when he was at Udinese, you could tell there's technical quality on the ball, clear, like it's pretty clear. But off the ball, his one-on-one defending isn't great.
It's interesting you say that, actually. I can't remember who it was who tweeted this, so apologies if I can't credit you, but someone actually said they'd rather see Tikvic play midfield before they see Kayembe make another appearance there for us, which I thought was an interesting observation, also saying that Tikvic potentially might be better further up. I definitely see what you mean. I actually thought as well, the way that he was able to shift the ball out on his left foot to the far side and play that ball to Larousse a few times, I thought was really good. And like you say, pass it between the lines. I don't think because of that, his defensive performance, I don't think he necessarily has done enough to get himself back into contention for the first team. Potentially one to watch in the window. It might be useful for him to go out on loan in League One maybe, or somewhere abroad. But I think you're spot on though in terms of the way that off the ball. I had this thought as well. My big frustration with quite a few Watford players is their decision making in individual moments. I think Larousse's decision making on the ball is really, really poor. But I think I look at Tikvic as well, and it's almost like he just doesn't really know whether to commit and try and be aggressive in the tackle or stand off. And ultimately what happens at that point is the game just passes him by because he backs off to the point where he then is forced into a decision and gives away a penalty like he did yesterday. And yeah, it was a soft penalty, and I think there was a bit of confusion in the away end as to what happened. I haven't seen it back yet, to be honest with you. Did it look like a penalty?
It was clumsy. It was clumsy from Tikvic. And look, there wasn't any VAR yesterday, was there? I'm pretty
no,
sure.
I don't think so, no. The thing that frustrated me more, to be honest with you, it wasn't necessarily the nature of the penalty. It was just conceding another goal on, 47, 48 minutes. I mean, again, I
can't put my finger on it. I was speaking to someone on the train to the game, and I was like, why do we start half slowly? I just still can't work it out.
This has been a whole season thing, and I actually thought yesterday we started really, really well the first half. First 20, 25 minutes. I'm not sure what minute Muniz scored the goal in, but we looked 24. Really organised, and we just kept our heads in the game, and that is progress for us, only conceding on 24 minutes. But that first half, I mean, Clevs must sometimes think, why on earth does he even bother giving a talk at half time? Because it's crazy, this recurring theme and not being able to sort this out. Yeah, I just think it's a mentality thing more than anything else now.
Just on a couple of other individuals, Duomo, who pulled up, and I actually thought he'd done his hamstring initially. He kind of ran it off, came back on, and 5 minutes later, he's off the pitch. And I think if I'm him, I'm thinking, oh, that's a real shame, because it felt like an opportunity last night for him to really make a claim for that central midfielder spot. Kayembe, a little bit off it. I thought his positioning actually for that penalty incident could have been a bit better to give him a bit more protection. Tom Ince, you said, was very. I mean, he wasn't really in the game.
Poor, very frustrating with Ince. I think, yes, he had those decent couple of games in the Carabao Cup right at the start of the season against MK Dons and Plymouth, I think at the time it was, wasn't it? But I don't think he's looked up to it at all, and particularly when he's playing in there with Kayembe, two left-footed players who I think are relatively slow with their decision-making. I think both can be quite slow with their decision-making. I just don't think it's working with them two in there at all. And yeah, I thought both were really poor yesterday.
Interestingly, on that, if you look at the average position that Watford took up yesterday, I mean, it's pretty clear. It's a low block. It's compact. Ince averaged the highest position out of all the midfielders, just inside the Fulham half, which is interesting. And I mean, look at Andrews' average position for someone who's an offensive fullback. I mean, look, the game plan was pretty clear. We mentioned Muniz' really, really good finish, to be fair, from Rodrigo Muniz on the half volley. Jimenez penalty was soft. Anderson's that was a frustrating one for me, because it was like the second ball. close your man down. We didn't do that. And Castagna won when the game starts to stretch a little bit. You kind of felt like that was going to come. Sam, my only slight criticism of Cleverley yesterday, I felt that he could have made his substitutions earlier. And some people are going to say, well, you're saying that after the event because they scored the third goal. I felt at 55 minutes, it was pretty obvious where the changes were to be made, and bringing Barr on, bringing Chatfadazzi on, or just changing it up. And then it went to 3-1, and then he made the changes, and it felt like the game was done there. Now, there's part of me which is like, could he have made the changes earlier? But then if I flip it, and if I'm Tom Cleverley, I'm thinking, do I gamble those players at this point of the game? They play a lot of football. So where do you stand on that?
I think you're spot on. I think I didn't understand firstly why they didn't come on at about 55, 60. Or what minute did they come on in the end? I don't get what they want.
They came on at 67, and that was at 3-1.
At 3-1, literally before. I think if you bring them on before 3-1, or you don't bring them on at all, because as soon as it gets to 3-1, the game's done. I think they came on literally as soon as Fulham scored, but the game was done at 3-1. Like, even the most optimistic Watford fans, I think, would admit that we were never going to turn it around at that point. And I was just thinking when that happened, as exciting as they are to watch Barr and Chatfadazzi, I'd much rather have them like completely fully at it on Tuesday. I'm not saying they won't be, but I just didn't really see a point in risking them when we were 3-1 down already. So, yeah, for me, it was either bring them on at 2-1 or don't bring them on at all.
Yeah, agreed. And especially, I guess, in a cup game, there'll be people who are wanting to really go for it, and you get one. There's obviously no replays in that as well. Could we have maybe taken it to extra time and nicked it? But that was the story of the game, really. Watford's, I think, I have to be honest, Fulham didn't really get out of second gear.
No,
if we're being totally honest about it, and whilst Watford rotated more than Fulham, because if you actually look at Fulham's team, if I get it back up on screen here. You look at sort of the players who play week in, week out. Joachim Andersen, Castagna, Pereira, Lukic, Smith Rowe's coming back to full fitness, Traore, Iwobi, Muniz comes off the bench. So you're looking at about 6 players there out of their 11, which normally play. And the only ones that don't really is the keeper, Cuenca. Sessegnon isn't really in it at the minute. But the midfield and top half of the pitch are players that are really in and amongst the Premier League squad that are doing so well under Marco Silva this season. So that was actually a pretty strong Fulham team. And credit to Fulham. The one probably my biggest thing yesterday. Number one, I think it did highlight the gap between the Premier League and the Championship. But and also, I'll get onto that in a minute in terms of where the two teams were 3 years ago, say. But I also think it goes to show. I forgot where I was going with that one. But actually, I'll go back to what I was saying about how 3 years ago, Fulham were trying to get promoted under Marco Silva. Watford were in the Premier League, I think, under Xisco. And then to think, you cast your mind 3 years later, and it's it's completely different dynamic between the two teams. Sam, it is amazing how that's changed, actually.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think even further back to 2019 when we absolutely hammered Fulham in the Premier League to confirm their relegation. We beat them 4-1. Will Hughes scored a volley that day. I think they had Ryan Babel up front, weirdly. That was Scott Parker's first ever game in management. So, I mean, that was now 6 years ago, under 6 years ago. Yeah, football can flip incredibly quickly. And there is a sense within me of, I think this is a bigger video to have in terms of what other clubs have done that Watford haven't done. There is a sense of jealousy within me, particularly when I've got a couple of friends. I think you do as well, Jacob from uni, who support Bournemouth, and how us and Bournemouth were almost so close to each other for so many years, almost going up and down the divisions together. And now they're absolutely flying with an unbelievable manager and brilliant young players as well. There's just a bit of jealousy with seeing how well those teams are doing and what's happened with Watford here. And the reason for that is one man, and it's Gino Pozzo.
It's an interesting one. Yes, I actually remember what I was going to say. I completely went blank. My point was, sometimes in FA Cup games where you're cruising at 1-0, if I'm Fulham, there's a goal out of nowhere. And then it's actually, that game can really become quite difficult because it's come against the run of play. Yeah. It's come out of nowhere. And then actually you've got to psych yourself up. And I thought that was the most impressive thing from Fulham yesterday. As I said, I didn't think they were out of second gear, but what they did well was go again in the second half, get that early goal. And then it was pretty, they were cruising really for the second half.
I thought it was because you hear it the other way when teams say that they weren't shown enough respect. I thought it was a respectful performance from Fulham as well to the competition and towards Watford. I think you could see they were nervous bringing on Jimenez at half time as well, and they started to take Watford a bit more seriously after that. So yeah, credit to Fulham. I'm not going to credit their manager for obvious reasons, but yeah, fair play to them, and yeah, it's interesting to see how well they do this season.
It's a sucker punch for me, Sam, because with Marco Silva, we know. I mean, the period before the Everton talks came in, that period as a Watford fan, we were just on cloud nine, really, in terms of
Yeah.
Clev's said it, that he's the best coach he worked for. There's no denying the quality of Marco Silva as a manager, not at all. I mean, what he's doing at Fulham is a remarkable job. He's so adaptable. He can change his team. And I look at him and I think that could have been us, really, the way he's played. But hey, look, that's for the past. You don't want to dwell on it too much. Sam, we're at the FA Cup. We're at the Carabao Cup. It's just that the Championship to focus on to the end of the season. And look, this might be taking the positive from the result. Is that the worst thing in the world for Watford and Tom Cleverley? Just having the Championship to focus on now?
I mean, I love the FA Cup, and I know people talk about almost sacrificing cup competitions for focusing on the league, but you know, I think it's in. I look at how united everyone was back in 2019 when we reached the final, and I know it's incredibly unlikely that we'd reach that point again, even though you see how well Coventry did last season getting into the semi-final, and previous teams over the years going deep into the competition. It just would have been great to almost have a night under the lights at the Vic against a really good Prem opposition, and give them a game under hopefully what would have been a really, really good atmosphere. So there is a tad bit of not frustration, because like I say, Fulham are a really, really good team, and it would have been difficult to win there yesterday. But yeah, I don't think it's a case now that there's a positive on just focusing on the league, if you know what I mean, because yeah, I love the FA Cup, and I sort of wish we could have gone far in the competition.
Yeah, agreed, and keep that momentum. Well, it's like momentum at the minute is
it breeds confidence as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does.
like
It does,
yeah.
and I cleverly mentioned that the squad depth isn't great at the minute. So it would have been interesting how we would have managed that if we got through hypothetically, but we don't have to worry about that now. It's just the Championship season now to focus on, Sam, and we look ahead to Cardiff midweek and Derby away, 2 away games, 2 back-to-back away games. Sam, if we're looking at those 2 teams this season, Derby and Cardiff, I mean, Cardiff are 23rd in the league. Derby are 24th, 23rd, 20. I think they're 17th. Around that point. Are these must-wins now for Watford, or must not lose?
Difficult to say that. I think 4 points is what we should probably be. I don't know, because obviously in terms of league positions, I think that's what we should be looking for. It is 6 points. It's 2 teams that we've obviously struggled against when we played them at Vicarage Road this season as well. The Derby game we won 2-1, but I think we went 1-0 down in the first minute in that game as well. And Cardiff, obviously, we lost that game last week to end that unbeaten run at Vicarage Road. So yeah, we need to be getting something in these games, particularly Cardiff. They're going to, they're in a relegation scrap, and Derby, I think Paul Warren's on thin ice there with the Derby fans. I don't think he's overly popular there, to be honest, despite them having a relatively okay season, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching any Derby fans, but listen, my just fear is, and I don't want to speak it into existence, but Watford have now lost 4 games in a row. If there's no positive return from these next 2 games, I think we all know what happens next with this owner, and I just fear that potentially the writing could be on the wall if we don't have positive outcomes from these 2 games.
Cleverly mentioned that he wants reinforcements in before Cardiff, which I really like that from Clevs, because that is the sort of pressure that I think we need to put on in terms of getting people in the door, because we are light at the minute, and we're light in certain positions, and we've gone through them so many times this channel. But you looked at the squad, and particularly that second squad in your team, which you can rotate, and we are light. I mean, that's just there for everyone to see. Sam, I look at sort of the records of both of these 2 teams. So Cardiff have the second worst home record in the division. Watford have the 4th best. Derby just below mid-table for that. Yeah. But then you look at the away form, and Watford are 18th in the league for the away record. So Really torn on this. I think Cardiff will be targeting this as an opportunity to get at this Watford team because of our away record. What are you targeting as a good return at the next two?
I think with our away form, I think 4 points would be a good return. If we are going to, particularly that Cardiff game, with it being our game in hand, I think it would be a really, really good outcome if we are able to win the game, obviously. And almost, I think we can take control back again of that top 6 race. But I think for me, in terms of the wider scheme of things, the home record's obviously gone. We've lost 2 in a row at home. Can we now almost even things out and start to get some more results away from home? Because I think you're fine in this league if you are winning your home games and picking up the odd result away from home. But if you're not doing that at home, you obviously need to perform a bit better away. So, yeah, I think for me as well, it's just continuing, hopefully seeing some progress in terms of not conceding the early goals, hopefully continuing to play well, and hopefully we see some reinforcements in the next few days.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep tabs on it here on WD18. Sam, anything else you'd like to mention before we head off?
Like I say, I just thought it was a really, really enjoyable day out yesterday. Thanks to everyone who came and said hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mentioned that they've signed up a team for the W18 Cup as well, or the Mental Health World Cup this year. So yeah, no, great day and enjoyable talking about it today as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I echo what Sam said there. I met so many fans yesterday who said hello, and it was really, really humbling. And like, it was lovely to meet so many of you. So if you do see us at a game, come and say hello. We'll always have a chat about Watford, have a pint in the process as well. I had my first pint of the year, actually, Sam.
Love that. I'm still going strong dry Jan wise.
What?
I am.
Wait, I
swear.
swear.
I'm telling you. No,
Wait,
dry Jan.
what were the rules? What were your rules on dry Jan though? Because you tweaked the rules.
Yeah, dry Jan until Derby away. So next week.
So dry mid-Jan, basically.
Dry mid-Jan. Yeah, we're going with that. All for the Orns.
Good man. Okay, nice one. Thanks so much for everyone who watched today. If you are listening, sorry to bang that drum again, but if you could drop us a review, we really, really do appreciate it. We've had a few people tell us that they're listening now just an audio, which goes a long way. If you could leave a like on the YouTube video, subscribe to WD18, follow Sam and myself on our social channels, and WD18 at WD18 fans. Comment down below on anything that we discussed here today, and we will be back. We'll probably be free this weekend. So have a great weekend, guys, and we'll probably be back next week to review Cardiff and see how we get on there. Actually, having said that, if there is some transfer news that comes in, I'm sure we'll jump on an emergency pod and discuss it. Fingers crossed, but we have been linked with a couple of keepers, actually. And one of them today, actually, Sam, just before we go, Mark Travers, who Charlie had predicted.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw someone did a great tweet on that with the lead judges, little lead judges meme. He's done it again. So fair play to whoever did that. Great video. Yeah, I think it would be a fantastic signing, but let's hope he doesn't go to Daniel Jefferson asking for a reference on what it's like to play for Watford. Yeah, hopefully he does. He speaks to. He's Irish, I think, so hopefully he speaks to someone like Rocco Vata to see what it's really like at Vicarage Road.
Like a Vicarage Road. That was from Jack Turner, long-term subscriber of the channel. And just to wrap up, if you can see on screen now, we have raised £500 for a Heart Mind initiative, £1 for every goal Watford scored this season. In December, we scored 7 goals. Myself, Sam, and Charlie have donated into the pot. And Rocco Vata's mum, who I know is watching, shout out to you, has donated as well. So make sure you join us on that if you'd like to anyway. The link is in the description below. And we will see you next week for some more Watford content. Take care, guys, and up the audits. Yours.